Over 50 ships and 20 planes have vanished without a trace in this area. The Bermuda Triangle still sends chills down people's spines, and now it's given us another mystery. What could happen next? Scientists have discovered a strange new mystery under the North Atlantic, right beneath the Bermuda Archipelago. It's an infamous region. You must have heard about the Bermuda Triangle, right? It's a huge area in the North Atlantic, roughly between Florida, Bermuda, and the Greater Antilles, roughly forming a massive triangle. Experts haven't agreed on its exact boundaries yet, but it covers hundreds of thousands of square miles. You must have heard creepy stories about ships and planes disappearing in the triangle. We'll talk about it a bit later. Right now, another mystery is looming on the horizon. Below the island of Bermuda, researchers have found an enormous rock layer about 12.5 miles thick, and it's way thicker than anything like this anywhere else in the world. Now, normally the ocean floor has a crust at the bottom, and below that is the mantle. But under Bermuda, there's an extra layer right beneath the crust, inside the tectonic plate the island sits on. It's a totally unexpected structure, and scientists aren't sure how it could form. This discovery might explain a long-standing mystery about Bermuda itself. The island is located on an oceanic swell. That's a part of the ocean floor that's higher than its surroundings. Now, usually a swell like this comes from volcanoes, but there's no evidence of any ongoing volcanic activity there. Bermuda's last known eruption occurred 31 million years ago. That's why the discovery of this new rock layer is so important. It may be the clue to a baffling mystery. Researchers think the last eruption might have pushed mantle rock up into the crust. This rock then froze in place, forming a kind of raft that lifted the ocean floor by about 1,600 feet. And this giant frozen structure may be what keeps the Bermuda Archipelago on an oceanic swell, high above the surrounding ocean floor. You see, some island chains form because of hot spots deep under the earth. Hot rock rises from the mantle, melts, and creates volcanoes. When this happens, the ocean floor gets pushed up. But after that, as tectonic plates shift, islands slowly drift away from the hot mantle plume that created them. They cool down, sink under their own weight, and leave a trail of old volcanoes behind. Over millions of years, many of these once tall islands sink below the ocean. Some become underwater mountains. Those are called seamounts. And if erosion flattens their tops near the surface, they're called guyas. A perfect example is the Hawaiian Emperor chain. Hawaii's Big Island is still active and above water, but as you go northwest, the islands get older, smaller, and eventually sink below the ocean. Bermuda is different. Its swell hasn't gone down, even though it hasn't had a volcanic eruption in millions of years. To figure out this mystery, scientists used a seismic station on Bermuda. They looked at how waves from big earthquakes around the world traveled under the island at a depth of about 31 miles. They noted where the waves changed speed, and it helped them find a huge thick layer of rock under Bermuda. Interestingly, this rock is less dense than the surrounding material, acting like a raft, keeping the ocean floor lifted and explaining the island's swell. Research shows that the lava from Bermuda is low in silica, which means it came from a rock that is high in carbon. And the analysis of zinc in rock samples suggests that this carbon came from deep in the mantle. It was likely pushed there when the supercontinent Pangaea formed between 900 million and 300 million years ago. This is different from islands formed over hotspots in the Pacific or Indian Oceans. One of the reasons may be that the Atlantic is a younger ocean, created when Pangaea split, while the Pacific and Indian Oceans are older. And Bermuda's location, once at the heart of Pangaea, may help explain why it is so unique. Scientists are now studying other islands to see if similar rock layers exist or if Bermuda is truly one of a kind. Understanding extreme locations like Bermuda helps scientists figure out the normal and unusual processes that shape our planet. Now, the Bermuda Triangle itself has fascinated and frightened people for over a century. Officially, the Bermuda Triangle doesn't even exist. No world map marks it, and the U.S. Board on Geographic Names doesn't recognize it as a real region. But people still know about this location and fear it. Stories of unexplained disappearances in the area date back to the mid-19th century, but the phrase Bermuda Triangle didn't appear until 1964, when the region was described as a triangular stretch of ocean that had destroyed hundreds of ships and planes without a trace. In 1918, the USS Cyclops vanished without explanation while traveling from Brazil to Baltimore, taking 306 crew members with it. Decades later, in 1945, Flight 19 disappeared over the same waters, leaving no wreckage and no clues. American writer Charles Berlitz added fuel to the mystery in his 1974 bestseller, The Bermuda Triangle. He even linked the disappearances to the mythical lost city of Atlantis. But despite the stories, the Bermuda Triangle isn't unusually dangerous. Studies, including one by the World Wildlife Fund in 2013, show that it's not even among the world's 10 most hazardous shipping areas. The region sees heavy daily traffic by both sea and air, which makes it one of the busiest shipping lanes on the planet. So, why all the mystery? The Bermuda Triangle gets hit by tropical storms and hurricanes all the time. The Gulf Stream, a powerful ocean current, dashes through the area and causes sudden and extreme weather changes. Compass readings can get tricky here too. The agonic line, where true north and magnetic north align, sometimes passes through the triangle. And below it all lies the Atlantic's deepest point, the Milwaukee Depth. It plunges 27,500 feet into the Puerto Rico Trench. These factors combined can lead to accidents that will make anyone believe there's something mysterious going on in the region. No wonder people have always been wondering about what's going on there. A few theories emerged. Let's take a look at the most plausible ones. So one thing to consider is rogue waves. These are super big, sudden waves that pop up out of nowhere. They're at least twice as tall as the waves around them, like walls of water. They're really dangerous for ships and anything in the ocean. Add all those severe storms and powerful currents in the triangle, and you'll understand that a ship could get smashed in seconds in such conditions. Some scientists talk about methane bubbles coming up from the ocean floor. According to them, if enough of that gas hits the water at once, it actually makes the water less dense, and this can actually cause a ship to sink. Sure, this phenomenon doesn't happen all the time, but it's enough to make people nervous. Then there's the magnetic stuff. Back in the day, compasses would freak out in the Bermuda Triangle because true north and magnetic north sometimes line up here. So sailors get totally lost. GPS fixes that these days, but in the past, it caused serious headaches and led to rumors and urban legends. Plus, as we already know, the weather is severe in that area. Hurricanes, tropical storms, and the Gulf Stream can turn calm waters into a total nightmare in no time. But a lot of it is just human error, too. The Triangle is one of the busiest shipping routes on the planet. Pilots and captains can mess up, especially in bad weather or at night. Flight 19 is a classic example. Once we mix heavy traffic with all those natural hazards, accidents are just going to happen. So even though the Bermuda Triangle is kind of scary, mostly it's just nature doing its thing. And we just need to deal with it. We still have a lot to explore and discover in that region, and we need to learn to navigate that area.
A huge invisible danger zone is hanging above Earth, messing with satellites, zapping electronics, and giving astronauts a headache. Scientists call it the South Atlantic Anomaly, and it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle of space, because weird stuff happens there and nobody fully understands why. Want to know more about this thing? Well, Earth has a magnetic field that protects us from dangerous radiation from the sun. We'll talk about it later. And over one spot on the planet, right above the South Atlantic Ocean, that shield gets weirdly weak. It stretches over South America and parts of Africa, creating a sort of magnetic soft spot. That weak spot is bad news for anything flying up there. When satellites travel through it, their systems can freak out. Computers freeze, data gets scrambled, and sometimes entire instruments shut down. Basically, the space version of your phone glitching out right when you need it most. Astronauts have to be extra careful in this region too. When the International Space Station passes through the anomaly, radiation levels spike. It's not enough to fry anyone, but it's surely not fun. The equipment can take a serious hit. No one knows exactly what's going on yet, but scientists think the SAA might be a clue that Earth's magnetic field is shifting. If that's true, it could mean big changes for the future, for us all. You see, the South Atlantic anomaly is connected to Earth's molten insides. Deep beneath the surface, the planet's core and mantle are constantly moving, flowing, and clashing. The outer core is a swirling ocean of liquid metal, and the mantle above is hot, solid rock. Under Africa, there's nothing to cool things down. The mantle is hotter than usual, which creates certain instability in the magnetic field above. As for South America, there, the Nazca Plate is dragging rock and debris down toward the core. This cools things off and keeps the field more stable. Such a wild temperature difference seems to be fueling the anomaly. According to some sources, it drives it across the Atlantic. The anomaly is slowly drifting westward. The thing is, Earth's magnetic field protects us from dangerous radiation from space, powerful solar winds, and wild swings in temperature, and keeps our atmosphere in check. But over millions of years, the magnetic poles have flipped. When it happens, north becomes south, south becomes north, and during those flips, the field can weaken. And some scientists thought the South Atlantic anomaly might be a warning sign before a full magnetic reversal. It could mean disaster to humans, but we'll talk about it later. The good news is, these flips take over. On average, Earth flips its magnetic poles about 2 times per million years. That means the next reversal could be hundreds of thousands of years away. Nearly 600 million years ago, our planet's shield almost failed, but at that time, it could have been a good thing. Scientists think this near collapse might have triggered a massive evolutionary boost and helped the first complex life forms to evolve. Back then, during a period called the Ediacaran, the magnetic field weakened drastically and stayed that weak for about 26 million years. With less protection, solar radiation removed lighter gases from the atmosphere, leaving oxygen floating freely in the air and oceans. That oxygen helped the first multicellular oxygen-breathing organisms to see the light of day. Those were strange, squishy creatures that hardly resembled animals today. Some were disc-shaped blobs, fronds, or shapeless fans, stretching over 3 feet long. By the way, one of the earliest known animals, Dickinsonia, was among them. It looks kinda pretty, doesn't it? Now, how do we know all this? Thanks to rocks. They're like time capsules. Tiny crystals inside them preserve the power of the magnetic field from hundreds of thousands of years ago. For example, certain crystals from southern Brazil revealed that 591 million years ago, Earth's magnetic field was 30 times weaker than it is now. And rocks from South Africa dating back 2 billion years showed that the field was at full strength back then. Now, let's explore a bit. Deep beneath our feet, there's Earth's inner core. We're used to thinking about it as a perfect solid ball, but new research suggests it might be changing shape. Over the past 20 years, parts of the inner core may have bulged or dipped by more than 300 feet. That's like a skyscraper popping up or sinking deep underground inside the planet. This core spins independently from the outer liquid core, which creates the magnetic field that shields us from dangerous solar radiation. The magnetosphere is non-negotiable. Without it, Earth would lose its atmosphere over time. Water would vanish, and life as we know it wouldn't survive. It basically keeps the planet alive. Without it, Earth could turn into a barren Mars, which lost its magnetic field billions of years ago, and along with it, almost all its atmosphere. So why is our planet's inner core deforming? It seems to happen where the solid inner core meets the super hot liquid outer core. The molten metal flows around it, and combined with the tug of an uneven gravity field, likely warps its edges. Scientists can't drill down to the core to check this theory. It's 3,200 miles below the surface. But they can track seismic waves from earthquakes as they ripple through Earth. They measure how these shock waves bend, slow down, or speed up, and it can help figure out what the inner core is made of and how it moves. That's probably how they know that the solid inner core is slowly growing, freezing layer by layer of the liquid outer core. But don't worry, it'll take billions of years to fully solidify. By that point, life on Earth would probably already be gone anyway. The sun's gonna swallow our planet long before the inner core stops moving. But let's get back to the topic that, I bet, worries you most. What if Earth's magnetic field just vanished one day? Well, the planet would be hit by a storm of charged particles from the sun. Satellites would start glitching and power grids would go down. We would get zapped with higher levels of UV radiation, the kind that can cause all kinds of serious health issues. In short, it wouldn't be instant doom, but life would get a lot trickier. Luckily, now we know that a magnetic field doesn't just vanish overnight, but ours has been slowly weakening for over a century. So what would life on a planet with a super weak magnetic field look like? You would just have to throw away your compass. It wouldn't point north anymore, just towards the nearest patch of strongest magnetism, wherever that may be. The northern and southern lights would go insane, appearing closer to the equator, all because charged solar particles would be able to get through the atmosphere more easily. Satellites would be under constant attack. Solar particles would fry their electronics, mess with memory, and cause what scientists call single-event upsets. High-frequency radio signals would also get scrambled, thanks to free electrons in the ionosphere. Over time, the solar wind could even start wearing down the ozone layer, leaving us all more exposed to UV radiation. Now, let's decrease the level of drama. A magnetic field isn't the only thing keeping a planet alive. Mars did lose its magnetic shield about 4 billion years ago, and most of its atmosphere got blown away. But Venus has no global magnetic field, but still has a thick atmosphere. If Earth lost its magnetic field completely, we wouldn't instantly vanish, but life would definitely change, and we would have to get used to these drastic changes.
You probably saw a viral video where YouTubers hid a huge treasure in the Bermuda Triangle, and a random guy dared to go after it. He scored $10,000, but let's be real, his biggest win was getting out of there alive. This dangerous stretch of water between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda is notorious for its chilling and unexplained events. They say that more than 50 ships and 20 airplanes have mysteriously disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. This leads to many theories, suggesting that this area is somehow linked to mystical powers or vortices that pull objects into other dimensions. But an Australian scientist named Karl Kruszelnicki might have actually cracked the code on the Bermuda Triangle mystery. According to him, most popular legends and eerie disappearances can be explained by two main factors. The first factor is human error. One theory debunked by Kruszelnicki was about the doomed Flight 19. Back in 1945, a group of 5 planes from the U.S. Navy took off on a routine training mission from Florida. Everything was going well until, 90 minutes into the flight, the troop commander reported that they were lost, and then, poof, they just disappeared. One of the largest air and sea searches in history was conducted to find them, but to this day, no one has found any trace of Flight 19 or the 14 men on board. What still makes people scratch their heads about this event is that the weather conditions when they took off were actually great. A relatively warm day, fluffy white clouds drifting across the sky, and a breezy wind coming from the southwest. Pretty standard for training flights, really, nothing out of the ordinary. So, what happened? It turns out that despite the flight leader having over 2,000 flying hours, he was a bad pilot. Actually, a really bad pilot. According to Krushelnyski, the commander was such a poor navigator that he had gotten lost at sea on at least 2 previous occasions before the Flight 19 incident. On that doomed day, he even tried to get someone to cover his shift but was unsuccessful, to the misfortune of his entire team. After their training flight exercise was completed successfully, both compasses on board stopped working. On the patrol's radio, his anxious voice said they were over land, or precisely, he was sure they were flying above the Florida Keys. But that didn't make any sense. He had made his scheduled pass over hens and chicken shoals in the Bahamas less than an hour earlier, but now he believed his plane had somehow drifted hundreds of miles off course and ended up in the Florida Keys. He couldn't have been more wrong. According to the most plausible theories about this case, what he thought was the Florida Keys was actually some small islands in the Bahamas. And here's where the real mess happened. Instead of turning back to the west, toward Florida, he kept flying east, deeper into the Atlantic Ocean. His plane eventually ran out of fuel, and you already know the rest of the story. Okay, some theorists might argue that a malevolent force somehow interfered with the 2 compasses, causing them to fail while they were flying this supposedly cursed stretch of water. But let's face it, even if that were true, human error was the main factor here. The pilot shouldn't have mistaken the Bahamas Islands for the Keys. End of that story. Now let's talk about the second factor that, according to Krushelnyski, explains many of the strange disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle, and that's related to bad weather. A lot of Atlantic tropical storms and hurricanes actually pass right through the Bermuda Triangle. So before we had advanced weather forecasting, these storms had caused a bunch of ships to go missing back in the day. On top of that, the Gulf Stream runs through the area too. That's a super strong ocean current that can make the weather change quickly and sometimes pretty dramatically. So when you think about it, natural factors like these could explain many, if not most, of the disappearances. Take the USS Cyclops, for example. Back in 1918, this massive 500-foot cargo ship, carrying about 11,000 tons of manganese, just disappeared without a trace. It was sailing from the West Indies to Baltimore, with 309 people on board. What makes this event extra eerie is that not a single distress signal was sent. Over 100 years later, we still have no idea what happened to it. No wreckage has ever been found. Of course, people have come up with all kinds of theories about the USS Cyclops. One popular idea is that it ran into a sudden, violent storm. With all that heavy manganese on board, it might have capsized and sunk really fast. Others speculate about underwater events, like landslides or even a rogue wave. Now, this is not such a crazy theory if you think about it. According to Krushelnyski, the Bermuda Triangle isn't just a bad weather zone. It is about the raw power of the ocean itself. The ocean floor there is way deeper than most people realize, going down nearly 30,000 feet. That's basically like Mount Everest in reverse. When the ocean water gets that deep, it tends to hide things, making it the perfect place for ships and planes to just disappear without a trace. The expert confirms that there is also a tiny chance that even stranger events could be happening beneath the waves of the Bermuda Triangle, and that is related to methane clathrate. This is a fancy name for an ice-like compound that forms underwater or in really cold places with methane gas trapped inside. Sometimes these structures can break free, creating bubbles on the surface, and this bubble shower can be fatal, at least for ships. Some experiments done with model ships showed that if enough bubbles rise up, the water's density drops, and this can mess with the ship's ability to float. If a large number of bubbles come up and cover a large area quickly, the ship could lose enough buoyancy to sink or tip over. But to be fair, the chances of something like that happening are very remote. So, human error and bad weather. Those are the two factors that likely explain all the mysteries surrounding this so-called malevolent stretch of water. But the truth is, the Bermuda Triangle isn't all that special. Although this region is very popular, there are no official maps that clearly outline its exact boundaries and say, "Look, here, precisely, is the Bermuda Triangle." And that is part of the problem. Disappearances and unexplained events that happen far from the actual region end up being lumped into the Bermuda Triangle's list of unexplained mysteries, like the Mary Celeste's fate. In 1872, this ship was found completely intact, but with no sign of the captain, his family, or the crew. People thought, okay, creepy fact, ghost ship, so it must be related to the Bermuda Triangle. But one thing doesn't add up. The Mary Celeste was abandoned about 400 miles east of the Azores, so we're talking about a completely different part of the Atlantic. By this time, the triangle has morphed into a trapezoid to cover that huge chunk of the North Atlantic. What I'm trying to say here is that once people start believing in a danger zone, confirmation bias takes over. But the facts are that the Bermuda Triangle sees tons of daily traffic every single day, both by sea and air. And according to experts, the number of incidents that happen there is pretty much the same as anywhere else in the world, percentage-wise. Some years the number is a bit higher, some years lower, but it averages out the same. With that in mind, it seems like it's time for us to finally move on from wild theories involving the Bermuda Triangle. Well, at least until the next bizarre disappearance comes along.
Its ruins lie somewhere in the darkness of the ocean depths, covered in seaweed, damaged by the ravages of time. The city of Atlantis allegedly existed 12,000 years ago. Then it sank, and over centuries, people have been passing stories about it. Many think it was just a regular island, but so many legends tell about a powerful empire. Atlantis supposedly was one of the wealthiest and most fascinating cities of its time. Your breath would have been taken away if you had stepped through its central gate. Amazing decorations and towering marble statues were all over the place. The rumor has it, the entire city is under the water now. Some people believe that it's on the seabed somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle. Some even claim that an underwater pyramid in the Atlantic is somehow responsible for all those planes, people, and boats that mysteriously disappear there, and no one can track them later. The story says that in the late 1960s, there was a group of treasure hunters that came across the ruins of an ancient city. It happened during one of their diving expeditions in the Bermuda region off the coast of Miami. They spoke about the intriguing remains of the city and mentioned a glass pyramid they also stumbled upon there. They claimed it was bigger than any other pyramid, even those discovered in Egypt. Of course, those were just stories. But unusual things do happen in that area. For example, volatile water currents or a strong vortex that occurs from time to time. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the best spots for researchers to explore. They go there to study minerals, the seabed, and the Gulf Stream. They study how the ocean influences weather. The geological structure of the planet's crust, deep down under the ocean floor, is especially interesting. The deepest point in the Atlantic Ocean lies in the Bermuda Triangle. Researchers have done a lot of studies and drilling there to find out what lies a couple of miles beneath the seabed in that area. There's an awesome variety of seabed landforms in the Bermuda Triangle. You can hardly see anything like that anywhere else on Earth, especially if you keep in mind that this is a relatively small ocean region. Look at this shelf with shallow banks. There are also plateaus, plains, and deep-sea trenches. If you believe the Bermuda Triangle is some sort of a trap, you're not wrong, considering its complex geological structure. There are a couple of groups of seamounts in the eastern and northern regions of the triangle. They're mostly unnamed. Some of them are up to 650 feet high. At such heights, they would be considered regular hills on the surface. But by ocean standards, these so-called underwater hills are like small mountains. They're either elliptical or round. You can see that if you take a look from above. There are more seamounts in the Pacific than in the Atlantic Ocean. The underwater world in the Atlantic is less diverse than in the Pacific, unless we're talking about the Bermuda Triangle. The limestone platform that forms the bottom of the triangle is nearly 3.7 miles deep, and this entire thick layer consists of the remains of small ancient creatures. In 2019, a big group of geologists published an article where they claimed that the triangle formed as a result of strong volcanic activity. For years, people believed there were ancient, long-extinct volcanoes that brought the Bermuda Islands from the sea bottom. So, one theory says the Bermuda Islands formed because there were disruptions in magma flows. Pieces of ancient plates that were already in the mantle went up to the surface, and then they mixed. That's how many volcanic islands in the oceans could form. Knowing this, science fiction writers let their imagination run wild. They told stories about scary creatures and mystical cities, or islands, hidden deep down beneath all those layers. All these mysterious stories encourage people to create their own theories. In the 15th century, a well-known man named Christopher Columbus was on what would later become one of the greatest and most important expeditions ever. He was one of the first people to tell stories about a mysterious region that was later called the Bermuda Triangle. This area was first known as the Somers Isles, named after British naval hero and privateer George Somers. But Spanish explorer Juan de Bermudez discovered the island in 1505, and that's when the area got the name it has today. So, Columbus mentioned some pretty strange sightings within the area, starting with a light similar to that of a candle moving up and down in the distance. He immediately warned his crew and asked them to look at the light, which kept vanishing and reappearing. He spoke about stars that seemed to move around in the sky. The needle of their compass went crazy too. But the most unusual thing he claimed he had seen was an unknown glowing object coming out of the sea and shooting toward the sky. Many people these days believe there was nothing really unusual there. Those must have been lights coming from another ship or from the shore. But Bermuda intrigues us today too. It's a roughly triangular area where ships disappear without any trace. Sometimes they show up later, but empty and with not a single person on board. But more often, no one ever finds their wrecks. And it's not just ships. Planes go missing too. The training sailing ship HMS Atalanta was one of the first cases in the string of mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. The ship left a dockyard in Bermuda and headed in the direction of England back in 1880. It never reached the British Isles. It actually never even left the Bermuda region. It just went missing, and no one ever found any trace of it. Some said the ship disappeared because of a powerful storm they came across on their route. The crew members probably didn't have enough experience to handle such a situation. Back then, everyone wanted to know what had happened to the ship. How could it just disappear like that? It made headlines. People were coming up with all kinds of possible theories about what could have happened. The story continued with the coal carrier Cyclops. In 1918, it sailed off the island of Barbados, and after a couple of days, the situation repeated. The ship disappeared without a trace, along with more than 300 people on board. 3 years later, in 1921, a Coast Guard on the Diamond Shoals near Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, discovered a massive commercial ship that ran aground. The Guard was prepared to help people in trouble, but they had no one to save. The ship was empty. None of the passengers or crew members were there. Some theories about this accident included pirates, but no one really found out what had happened. Flight 19 turned out to be one of the most famous incidents in that area. An entire group of aircraft disappeared in the area in 1945. A further rescue expedition didn't go well either, because one of the mariners with 13 crew members also went missing. And it's not that such things only happened a long time ago. A 29-foot-long ship with 20 people on board went missing a day after it was due to arrive at Lake Worth, Florida. There were neither any records of the ship nor any distress signal. The search mission involved boats and aircraft and lasted 84 hours. The rescue team covered an area that was nearly 2 times the size of the entire state of Massachusetts, but still nothing. The Bermuda Triangle is a place of great mystery, but the islands are a perfect spot for travelers. It's an excellent place if you're into golfing, for example. So, if you're lucky, you might easily run into some famous golf players or celebrities while there. And here's something interesting for music fans. John Lennon got inspiration for nearly 25 of his songs on one of these fascinating islands.